Yes, I did choose to buy the kids line instead of the adult-oriented Marvel Legends. And yes, the cashier did give me a weird look when I came to the front with all of these. Well, a new Spider-Verse movie's coming out. In fact, it should actually be out today, the day I'm posting this. And, now's a good time to sell out. It's a good time to start literally pandering for views. So, why not? I've never done it before. The last time I tried to do this with Marvel, I reviewed a Loki figure a week after the finale of the Loki show. So, let me have this. Let me just have this. So, I'm really excited for the movie. I loved Into the Spider-Verse. Across the Spider-Verse looks like it's going to be really cool. Love the animation style. It's a movie that features my preferred Spider-Man, that being Miles. Spoiler alert, I don't like Peter that much, but I do like Peter B, because Peter B is the man. I went to the store and found these guys. Basically, I found Scarlet Spider, and I always gotta get Scarlet Spider. He's like one of my favorite designs ever. But then turn the corner, there was this gift pack, and it was on sale. And then there were gears in my head that said, if I got these, I could make a video. And I got them, and then literally the next store I went to, I found Spider-Gwen. So got them too. So now we're going to be looking at essentially the main cast. Like, granted, we're missing some Spider-Women. I don't have Spider-Man India. But hey, I got, the main trio plus $20.99 and a couple of cooler Spider-Men like Punk and Ben Reilly. Well, it's fun. Even though, granted, there's one character who I can almost guarantee you, unless they find an alternate universe, I can almost guarantee you that one's not going to be in the movie. Look, I know everyone's already got this, but I just want to make this exceedingly clear. These are not, like Marvel Legends. They're not anything that's, like, made for adults. These are the kids' lines. And the reason I got these is because last time I was convinced that Marvel Legends would eventually do an Into the Spider-Verse line. They didn't. And a lot of the characters that I would have wanted to get, like Spider-Man Noir, was only done in the kids' line. So this time, I said, fuck it. We're getting the kids' line. And it means that I get a bunch of characters for a lot cheaper, and they still look fine, but we're going to get into it. Also, I just noticed something, and I need to point this out. So, Across the Spider-Verse, right? Across the Spider-Verse. Across the Spider-Verse. But then what is this? Into the Spider-Verse. What branding is this? I think it'd be easiest just to talk about these guys first. They are the individual figure releases. And I'll point out which these you can get on their own and which ones are exclusive to the gift set. But these guys are both obviously by themselves. So if you just need a new Gwen Stacy or a new Ben Reilly, these guys look cool. Let's check them out. Taking a look at Gwen first, and I don't actually know, are they going to call them Ghost Spider in the movie? Whatever, Gwen, right? So, for a kid's toy, which these guys all go for anywhere from $8 to $10, I spent $8 on this one. It's decent. Paint's good. The joints do feel a little bit loose, but not anything too terrible. There's also paint splotch on the glove there that you can see the blue goes a little too far. But overall, proportions are decent. The head sculpt looks all right. I do like that they gave Gwen a web shooting hand. That works. Articulation is universal on all these guys. So you got a ball joint at the head, universal at the shoulder, universal at the elbow, and back and forward at the legs. No elbows, and nothing at the ankles. But again, they look all right, especially for how cheap they are. Also, they didn't paint the webbing on their underarms. But I get it. It's cheap. Also, they did come with this. I assume that's supposed to be a web, so we'll slide it onto their wrist. That looks alright. Looks decent. I think if you get it at the right angle, that might actually look pretty cool. I'm looking at it through the web fighter. It looks a lot better on camera than it looks in person. Make of that what you will. But yeah, overall, especially for what this is meant to be, which is a cheap Spider-Gwen to give children, this is alright. I kind of dig this. And then there's this asshole. Like I said, Scarlet Spider is like the literal only reason I even considered buying any of these figures in the first place. And it was because I got him that I got into the slippery slope of, I need others. But looking at him, the sculpting looks really good. The eyes are raised in relief. The head sculpt is really solid. I love the sculpted detail of the hood and how they have the spider painted there. It's also raised in relief. Same on the back. it's good. Like, in all honesty, a few years ago, this level of sculpting, not articulation, but this level of sculpting would have been impressive on a Marvel Legends. But it looks decent. They even remembered his, like, little pockets down here on his ankles. Look, I'm just a sucker for Ben Reilly Spider-Man. I love him as a character. I love him as a design. I love everything about him. I'm really happy whenever I get Scarlet Spider representation, and this is a good representation. I really hope he's in the movie now, but I get the feeling they probably just did this for the sake of doing a famous Spider-Man. But let's click the web onto his wrist. He is a lot harder because he has his gauntlets down here, and that actually makes the rest of the arm too thick to actually take the spider web. Oh no. Can I get that on at all? That's way too small. I literally hear that cracking. Wow. So he can't use the web. Like, thank goodness he looks as good as he does, because he actually is a lot less effective than Spider-Gwen is, I guess, because he can't even use the accessory gimmick. Now, of course, we move to the big gift set, and like I said, the individual guys were $10. This was $55. So it comes out that you're actually paying a little bit less per figure, probably like $9.50. I'm not great at math, but you know, it's decent bang for your buck if you're going in on this line, and you do get most of the principal cast. Like, if they had popped Spider-Gwen in here, you would have the main four. But I do think that they have 5 cool additions, and then 1 figure that they probably had a surplus of. I do want to point this out. There is a box within the box that you have to rip out to get the accessories. And I'm going to do my best. They don't actually say which accessory goes to which figure. I'm going to use my powers of deduction to guess. But just know you're going to get all these accessories with this gift set. If you buy them individually, they might have some differences, and I'll do my best to describe those as we get to them, but I've also not done a mountain's worth of research on this. Let's start with the ultimate Spider-Person, that being Miles Morales. Now, you can get this Miles as an individual figure. However, it doesn't have the blue paint. It is an entirely black figure. You get this figure, you have the blue paint, which I think they did to make it look a little bit more glossy. However, I could also see maybe this is supposed to like be a reference to his invisibility, which I don't buy, and I'll tell you why when we get to another figure in this set, but I do think this looks alright. My biggest issue with this figure is the head sculpt. There's a lot of angles where it just looks really strange, almost like has like a Martian head under there. Especially comparing it to like the more adult male figures, like the other Spider-Man. He's just really weirdly proportioned, and I don't think that this is a case of, oh, well, he's a kid, he has proportions that are different. No, I just think he's kind of strange in that department. Now, the accessory that I'm almost convinced goes with him, because I saw him at the store, is this Lightning, which could be a reference to his electric abilities. It does click right there on his hand, looks decent. However, he doesn't actually have the strength to hold himself up when he does that. Maybe if I get it more to the side? No. Oh, God, oh, there we go. It takes a minute, but his feet are smaller, so he has a harder time holding himself up than Scarlet Spider or even Gwen. Now, you can't have a Spider-Verse without a Spider-Man, the original Peter Parker, and I gotta say, this figure's decent. Is it the most interesting figure ever? No, and there's going to be a million other Spider-Man who come out before this that look just like this figure. There's going to be a million that come out after that looks just like this figure. But I think it's decent. It's a good representation of Peter B. There's just one big issue I have with this figure. To get him to stand up, because he's so front-heavy and his feet are at such a weird angle, he has to be pelvic thrusting like that. It's very unnatural looking, and it also makes him really hard to balance. Like, literally, just try to put his hand out. Like, at least Miles could do that much. Can Peter do that much? No, he can't. And this isn't even getting into my Peter bias. Trust me, if you want, I can eventually make a video as to why I think Peter is, like, the most overrated comic book character of all time. But even with that out of the way, I think this is the weakest figure we've looked at so far. Look, Toys R Us closed down. We gotta do something with all these Prowlers. Look, this Prowler figure is really cool. His proportions are perfect. The colors are great. I love the sculpted detail. He's probably the best looking figure here, or one of at the very least. Even his gauntlets are really well sculpted and painted. Sure, he doesn't have great articulation, but he's the most unique figure in the set, and I think he's one of the most functional. no accessories, but I don't think he needs them either. With all that said, it is really weird that there's only one character in this whole box set that I would definitively say is not across the Spider-Verse, and it's Prowler, and yet he was put in over, say, the other main character, which I guess you could say, well, if you put all of them in together, then the kids have no reason to buy the other Spider-Verse figures, but, like, come on, man, is Prowler really the way to go? Why not Kingpin? Put Kingpin in, well, Kingpin would probably cost a lot of money. Look, Prowler's cool, I like Prowler, he's just a weird addition. Let's talk about the new baddie of the movie, Spot. And by the way, I really don't think he's the actual villain of the movie. I think that this is a red herring. But hey, that's just me. Here's the thing, right? Figure looks cool, like him. He can't stand up because he has the same issue where he's too front heavy and there's not enough angling on the feet. So you let him go, he's just going to do that every time. So you're going to have to find a decent place to put him where he can lean back. However, he does have an action gimmick, which makes him unique amongst this entire set. You push his legs, and he punches. That's worth a figure that can't stand up, right? That's alright. It's actually kind of cool. That said, you can get this guy individually, and I almost wonder, maybe this is an issue with the boxing here, where maybe the legs got warped, but then again, Spider-Man was on the top row and had the same issues, so I don't know. He's better than Peter, because he's more unique, and has the action gimmick, and he looks cooler, but he stands worse, which makes him like a worse action figure objectively, I think. But hey, let's talk about some new Spider people. Spider-Punk came out looking really cool. I've always liked Spider-Punk's design, and he looks really, especially great here. I love how he's so much lankier and thinner than the others. Also, if you look, his eyes are asymmetric. I don't know if that's actually part of the design or if that's a flunky, but either way, it looks really cool. I like everything about this figure, but there are some issues, and this time it's not even a balance issue. He's so thin. He's so thin. Look at these limbs. How paper thin they are. Every time I try to move a joint, I see the plastic wants to rip itself apart as opposed to move. So I don't even want to interact with this guy, which is a shame because he also comes with the best accessory of the pack, that being the guitar. And I can't get him into a cool guitar pose. Well, here, maybe I can cheat one. No, not really. And he can't hold the guitar because it unbalances him. Cool. Great. Love that. And then we get to Spider-Man 2099, Miguel O'Hara himself. And look at this friggin' figure, dude. The translucent plastic and the paint makes him look so much more... I don't know, he looks so much more quality than he might actually be. He looks so much more high-end than a $10 figure should. I love everything about this, the sculpting, the technical detail, how the paint works with the translucent plastic, the articulation, the proportions. He's easily the biggest figure in the pack, even bigger than the Dot. So everything about this figure is so cool, and even better, he's exclusive to this pack. Yes, you can get Spider-Man 29 individually, but this is the only way to get the translucent version. And it's also the only way to get this cool, red dot thing, this laser pointer. If I can get it on his hand. There we go. That's pretty cool. I like that. Now, translucent plastic will break over time. Be aware of that. However, if you just want a really cool-looking Miguel O'Hara, this really does fit the bill. Especially if you want something more stylized in this art style, this might be the best figure to get for this character. Taking a look at them all together, and that's a really cool collection of Spider people. I think especially if you get them a good shelf or a good section of a shelf, even though they're not that articulated or that well painted, they could really do wonders, especially as an ensemble like this. You get to see so many different corners of the Spider-Man mythos, and all of them look really solid. But here's the thing I really want to do while I've been making this, right? Let's say you could only get a couple of these guys. Let's say that you're not a complete degenerate like I am. Which of these is best and which of these are worst? Now, this is just my subjective opinion. Just my opinion. Just me. Just me here. If you hate them, it's my fault. If you love them, I did that. However, I just want to say how I personally rank these guys while they're fresh out of the box, while I have first impressions going, because let's be honest, for some of these figures, that's going to be their best chance at potentially getting a higher spot than others. The wooden spoon has to go to Peter B. He's going to be the most available, he's been released the most ways, he has the most figures that are done in this style that look just like this, and he gave me the most headache while I was trying to film him. So for all those reasons, he's definitely the very bottom rung. The Spot was one I was really having high hopes for because he's the most unique and he had that gimmick. But the fact that he can't stand up on his own really sours this guy to me. So he's way better than Peter B, just to be clear. But he's not that much better. Just missing the halfway point has to be Spider-Punk. I hate to say this because I think the design is so fun. I think that this is a great look. I love the personality in the figure and the head sculpt. But I'm just so worried those arms are going to snap. They're too thin, and the plastic's not durable enough. And at the end of the day, the biggest pet peeve I could have with an action figure, aside from the inability to stand up, is feeling as though I'm going to break it just by looking at it. At our halfway point, I kind of feel like I have to go with Miles. Now, I do want to say I think that Spider-Punk is a more impressive figure, but what Miles has is stability. This figure is going to last a long time. The plastic's good, and even though I have issues with how the figure looks, and there's also the fact that there's going to be a million different ways to get this figure or a figure very much like this, at the end of the day, it is Miles' movie, so he gets a little bit of a caveat just for that, and the figure is solid enough and a lot more durable than Spider-Punk. Just missing out on the top 3, and I honestly can't believe that I'm ranking the Spider-Man 2099 this low. The figure looks amazing. The proportions are perfect. He's the largest figure in the line, which is the most bang for the buck. And were this the normal 2099, I feel like he would easily be number 1. But as I was literally just putting these figures in a line to figure out how I rank them, that arm is breaking. The translucent plastic is already breaking down. This is an issue I've always had with translucent plastic, especially Hasbro translucent plastic, and it seems as though Miguel here is no exception to that rule. The figure is impressive. If you could get the normal one, the one that uses real plastic, I think he's the best figure here. But if I'm just looking at this translucent version, even though he's the best looking, even though everything else about him is wonderful, I stick by number 1 and number 2 with my pet peeves. Number 1, an action figure needs to stand, and number 2, it shouldn't break itself just while I'm playing with it. And you broke rule number 2. So he has to stay here in the top 4, in the top half. His looks alone, his size alone, gets him that far, even though I think he's functionally even worse than Spider-Punk. The bronze medal goes to Spider-Gwen. Now, don't get me wrong, this figure is missing a whole lot of paint, but at the end of the day, it's still very well proportioned, well sculpted, well painted, looks great, is easily available, but not so available as to be boring, and I just like Ghost Spider's design overall. It's one of my favorite designs from any comic book character introduced in the 2010s. It's striking, it's neon, I adore seeing it in action figure form, I love Gwen in the movies themselves, so overall, good figure, happy it's in the top 3. How the fuck did this happen? The figure I was clowning on is my second favorite, but hear me out, right? Prowler is just a really good design. The colors are great. The cape is awesome. The proportions are good. The figure is large. He's tall. He's durable feeling. He looks great. He feels great. He's going to last. Basically through sheer nutrition alone, he makes it to the top 2. And what do you know? My bias is in full effect here. Look, I didn't go into this thinking that Ben Reilly was going to be my favorite. I honestly didn't. I thought that, at best, he might get the top 3. But as I played with all of them, he's just the best one to me. He looks the best. He feels the best. He poses the best. His arms are so cool. He's unique enough and yet iconic enough to be as nostalgic as a Peter B or a Miles, while still having something fresh about him because we just don't get that many Scarlet Spiders in the grand scheme of things. He's a cool figure, a great look. I got him cheap. I didn't have to buy a full gift set to get him. And moreover, he's going to be around when Spider-Punk might be broken, when Spider-Man 2099 shatters because of the clear plastic. This guy's durable. He's going to last. And he's just as cool as them in terms of appearance. So, yeah, he makes it to the end. I'm sorry. Now, that would be one hell of a Marvel team-up. But overall, the thing I really want to just stick with here, they're good figures. Made for kids? Yeah. Cheap? Yeah. Not that articulator well-painted? Absolutely. But they're fun. They're decent figures for cheap, and if you just have a little bit of money but adore one of these characters, go for them. They're going to be a good desk toy, and as long as it's not the translucent plastic Spider-Man 2099, they're going to last you a long time. It's one of those things where I'm so sick of collectors saying, like, oh, I hate the kids' lines. Here's the fact of the matter, not everyone wants to spend $500 on a Hot Toys. Now, would I typically go for a Legends version of these figures over these guys? Yeah, sure. But at the end of the day, I didn't break the bank, and I have a whole cast of Spider people now. And especially if you're a young collector, a new collector, a collector who has a budget, that's worth something. That's worth a lot. So these figures absolutely get a big thumbs up from me just for what they are and what their intended market is. They're good.